Well, it's snowing. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today is a book review, and this book review is actually, again, in honor of another book release. Another really highly anticipated book release for me, and that is Can't Help Falling by Kira Isaac. This is her contemporary romance set in Oxford, England, with a C.S. Lewis Narnian theme. So in honor of the release of Can't Help Falling, I'm actually going to be doing a review of Kira Isaac's debut book, Close to You. Close to You is her contemporary romance set in New Zealand with a Tolkien Middle-earth themed, and it was one of my favorite books of 2016. Like I said, Close to You takes place in New Zealand. This book follows Alison Shire, who is an academic who is fallen out of falling in love. She wants nothing to do with love as she flees from a very embarrassing personal situation and becomes a tour guide on the scene and set locations for The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies. This also follows Jackson Gregory, who has lost everything. His girlfriend has left him, taking all of his business secrets to his biggest competitor. So to try and save his business and save his investors, he tries to butter up this man. So to try and save his business, he has to kind of warm his way up to this long-lost great uncle of his who is a Tolkien fan, and he gets dragged on this Middle-earth excursion, and he himself has barely watched any of the movies. So he has to prove himself a Tolkien fan to his uncle to kind of save his business. Then he meets Alison Shire, who calls the fake Tolkien fan as soon as he steps off the plane, and a bunch of shenanigans ensues, and it was just amazing. I loved it. What I loved about this was, of course, the Tolkien Middle-earth themed. I am a Tolkien nerd. My favorite movies of all time is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. When people ask me my top 5, the trilogy gets blocked in together. I cannot watch one without the other. I absolutely adore those movies. I'm not going to go into The Hobbit, but the Lord of the Rings are my favorite movies of all time. I loved having that background of it being on the sets, on the locations, the commentary, the quotes, the little touches of it just warmed me up and just made this book just for me. And that's what I felt like. I felt like this book was written just for me, and it really catered a lot to the fans. It even had some really behind the scenes stuff that really hardcore fans would understand and would enjoy. So I really liked how she incorporated that as well. So the entire setting of this book already won me over. I really liked both Alison and Jackson as characters. Alison is an English academic who initially was a Tolkien diehard as well, but then when you're followed with just the crazy fanatical fans and the media part of it all, she just kind of loses her love for Tolkien and his themes and his writings, and is just the poor little tour guide who has to wear the Hobbit costume everywhere she goes. So she kind of loses her love for just Tolkien for life, for what she loves to do, because of kind of what happened with her personally. She was married. This is on the back cover. This isn't me spoiling anything. She was married only to discover that her husband had a wife that she knew nothing about. So she kind of, to escape all that, she's dealing with all of this, and at the same time just kind of losing her zest for life. I think she's also maybe the one in her family that has a faith background and has become a Christian, and the rest of her family are like high socialites, very high in society, very popular. I think her brother-in-law is even like a politician in Wellington, so her family is very much in the limelight and very high up there with the money, with the class and everything, and they kind of see her faith as like a little hobby. So she's struggling to hang on to her faith too when she doesn't have that support community around her with all of this crashing around her. So there was that part of her character as well that I liked to see her struggle, but I liked to see how she struggled and how she grew with that. Now, Jackson's character I loved from the beginning. Jackson is this big city businessman who left the family farm, left the family values and the family beliefs behind to make it big in the city. When he loses everything, he turns to the only person he can, which is this long-lost great uncle of Lewis. I also love the fact that this elderly gentleman is named Lewis. So to have Lewis invest back into his company, he has to prove himself a Tolkien fan. Lewis, I think, just has a ball of a time dragging this poor guy along on this Tolkien-esque adventure. Jackson is so set on not only just winning back his company, but I think you really learn the heart behind it is that he's trying to actually help those investors out that invested in his company and lost it all. And he just feels bad genuinely for those people. So you really get to see that there's more of a heart to this businessman than you let on in the beginning. Watching him struggle, though, as a Tolkien fan and trying to muddle his way through it. He bought the Cliff Notes version. He bought Lord of the Rings for Dummies. Like, you just have those moments where he's trying to watch the movies in his hotel room covertly. So it's just, you have those great moments. And of course, both Allison and him have this great chemistry together, as Allison's kind of spark for her love of Tolkien comes from fighting with this fake Tolkien fan. So along with the main two characters, you also have Lewis, who is Jackson's great uncle. And Lewis is kind of your grandfather Gandalf figure. He is adorable. He is hilarious. He is wise, and he has like the greatest one-liners, and I wish I was related to this guy. He is just absolutely incredible and probably my favorite side character entirely. He was just incredible character. I love how he was written. The side characters were absolutely hilarious. You had this rest of this tour group that were these fanatical Lord of the Rings fans. So you had this one German girl who is obsessed with Eowyn and this kind of women's lib Eowyn follower. It was really like she was just out there. And then you have this one girl who, when she wore her Arwen costume, she actually became the character Arwen and expected people to bow to her. It was psychotic. She was also a kleptomaniac, so you have a lot of shenanigans just with that tour group as well. And I was starting to think, it's like, man, Tolkien and Lord of the Rings fans, we're not that crazy. Like, we can't be that weird. And then I was reading some of this, I'm like, okay, maybe we are. But it added a great sense of humor and comedy to the story. Along with this comedy and all the shenanigans, you also had great heart behind it. Lewis is teaching Jackson a lot about himself as he goes through this, and also Allison is learning a lot about herself as she's fighting with Jackson and then bringing herself back to the values and what she loved about the writings of Tolkien. And I think these characters go through such a great growth, and there's such a great faith element of going back and coming back to God and coming back to those values and those beliefs, and I really enjoyed the growth these characters had. So you had a great balance of comedy and you had a great balance of serious faith growth elements to it as well. So like I said, the writing was witty and smart and all around just fantastic and really engaged you as a reader. It also just engaged me as a nerd, and I'm not even a contemporary fan, but this book has definitely opened me to reading more contemporary, and I just loved it. It had great characters, great writing, and just great world to be in again from a different perspective. So of course I gave it a solid 5-star rating on Goodreads. It has become one of my favorite books of 2016. There was so many moments where I was just busting a gut laughing out loud in this book, and just I absolutely loved this book. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I would highly recommend it. If you haven't done so already, you should go pick it up. And of course, go pick up her second book, Can't Help Falling, which set place in Oxford and is a C.S. Lewis and Narnian themed romance. So I'm super excited about that because just as much as I love Tolkien, I also love C.S. Lewis. So again, a contemporary romance written for geeks like me. Loved it. So can't wait to read that one. So that's it for me today, guys. Before I lose my voice, I can't believe I'm still sick. So that's it for me today, guys. I hope you guys pick up both of these books and enjoy them. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!